Hokage, the civilian Genjutsu master who can read minds. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 51. Unexpected gain. Whoosh. Just after Feiju Dragonfly accepted Madarashi Hondo's torture, Bayun walked out through the dark forest road in the morning. Holding the sword in his hand, he saw a few people chatting, and then looked at the surrounding scene, and probably guessed that his teammates had finished the battle. Clang. Put the sword back into the scabbard behind your back. The captain is here. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said. Hondo put his hands on his hips and looked back to see Bayun, who had just stopped talking in the morning. Is the captain injured? It's okay, what about you? Where is the enemy? Bayun looked around in confusion in the morning, but did not find the enemy's body, so it was difficult to take him away. This made him frown. This guy used sealing techniques to put it away. Anko pointed at the flying bamboo dragonfly. She admired this very much. Even though it was easy to collect the corpse just now, it was sealing techniques and not something ordinary people could learn. Even she, a former disciple of Orochimaru, gave up after studying for a while. Even the mark on his neck was sealed by third generation. Flying bamboo dragonfly, Captain, where is your opponent's body? I have read the memories of other people, and only your opponent is left. Sorry, the enemy is too strong, the battle is too fierce, and the body has been dismembered. I guess the ability to read minds is useless. Bayun sighed in the morning. The opponent was also a powerful ninja with extraordinary methods. The newly created vacuum sword could not be controlled well and was torn into pieces. That's it doesn't matter. Next, I will report the information I just collected. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said. Others heard this and pricked up their ears. According to the memories I read, these people are indeed from Yunin village. They are also two important teams that attack the trade channels of the Kingdom of Iron and the Kingdom of Fire. The order these people received was to intercept and kill the caravans trading with the Country of Fire, and they have been doing so for some time. There are 2 other elite teams, a total of 4 elite teams are in action. According to the current situation, the opponent seems to realize that Konoha is preparing to counterattack, and to make a final blockade, they will return to the Kingdom of Thunder. Leave this mess to Konoha alone. Uchiha Itachi, in other words, this attack may be the other party's last? It's possible. Then have we completed the mission given by third generation? Madarashi Anko said excitedly. This is an S-level mission. After completing it, she will get a lot of small money, which means she can eat 3-color meatballs for a long time. It was completed in a few days. It is simply too perfect to be perfect. It would be great if this guy had a mouth as sweet as a ferret. It seemed that he had completely forgotten that it was Itachi's sword. No, it could also be a trap, a back and forth, so we can't relax. We will continue to patrol the border and pass the information back to Konoha. This trade channel is very important. We cannot be careless. If possible, Dragonfly, find the other 2 teams and kill them. As the captain in the morning, Bayun's steady side was revealed, and he didn't have the slightest emotion towards the ninjas of other countries. Understood, clean up, let's go meet the captain of that convoy, show the strength of Konoha, and spread this matter, so that the Iron Kingdom caravan can feel at ease. Fishikinging said. What he has learned over the years is not just ninjutsu. Even if he is not specialized, he has also learned a lot about other things. This kind of thing is very important to a politician. He wants to be a qualified migrant worker, safe and sound, and must figure out the people's hearts above him in order to consolidate his position. Well, Dragonfly said very well, let's talk to them first, and then go after the enemies of the other 2 teams. Bayun nodded in the morning. Uchiha Itachi saw everything, and his impression of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly rose again. He was worthy of being praised by the third generation for his will of fire. Always think of the good side of Konoha. He's still far from it. Sir, why don't we leave quickly? If those guys from Konoha lose, we will be dead. A guard waited for a long time, listening to the sound of weapons clashing from time to time in the forest, and the psychological pressure seemed invisible. Hammer, flatten him bit by bit. The same goes for the other guards. Judging from the situation just now, their strength is not enough to retreat unscathed from the enemy's offensive. Now is the best time. The hairy-faced uncle frowned. What the guard said didn't make sense, because even if he walked, he wouldn't be able to go far, and the enemy would definitely be able to catch up. Now these guards are just afraid of death and want to escape. If I had known earlier, I would have hired people from Konoha. Look at them, 4 of them fought against a dozen, and they still responded so bravely. But what of Konoha? Ta. At this moment, there was a strange movement in the forest beside the road. All the guards immediately picked up their swords and looked nervously at the shadowy figure coming out. When they saw that they were all Konoha ninjas protecting their foreheads, they all breathed a sigh of relief. The hairy-faced uncle's eyes lit up. Since all 4 people from Konoha had come out, it meant that the enemies had been repulsed. He jumped off the carriage and quickly greeted them, with a smile on his face like a distinguished guest. Thank you to all the ninjas in Konoha for helping us deal with these wandering robbers. Thank you very much. It doesn't matter, these Kumogakure dare to come to the border of the land of fire to run wild and deserve to die. Don't worry, in the future, we Konoha have sent reinforcements to the border, and no one will dare to touch you again. Baiyun said in the morning. Hidden in the clouds? Mao Lian's face turned very ugly when he heard this. It turned out to be these guys. The damn Kingdom of Thunder actually did such a thing. You must know that many of their chambers of commerce in the Kingdom of Iron also have many transactions with the Kingdom of Thunder, and now in order to target Konoha, they actually hit them. When you go back, you must mobilize the power of the Chamber of Commerce of the Kingdom of Iron to suppress the trade prices of the Kingdom of Thunder and let them know how powerful it is. Thank you. I will recommend it to my colleagues in the Iron Country. It is safe to hire Konoha ninjas. The hairy-faced uncle did not say anything about benefiting Konoha. That is not in line with his status as a businessman. Despite this, Baiyun's eyes lit up in the morning, and he didn't expect there would be an unexpected gain. The same goes for flying bamboo dragonflies. The Hidden Village is a military mercenary organization, and 70% of its normal operating funds come from employment from various forces. Now that the uncle said this, it may bring benefits to Konoha. If they really do it, it means that they have done a great job, and then they can change to ninjutsu or something to add to their own growth. The goal was achieved, and there was an unexpected gain. The 4 of them just chatted with the hairy-faced uncle for a while, then said goodbye and disappeared in front of them, tracking the other 2 teams. Whoosh. Huh, damn Konoha, I wish I had come earlier. After the Konoha ninjas left, the hairy-faced uncle looked at the dead men and horses around him, wanting to cry but without tears. He had suffered heavy losses. Appreciating Konoha's strength does not mean not complaining that they came too late. It's just that the true nature of the businessman was not exposed just now. Episode 52. Instructions. Phew. The 4 people moved quickly in the forest. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is in the center of the formation, using ninjutsu sensing. The other 3 are led by Baiyun Zhao, and Uchiha Itachi and Anko are guarding the rear wings. This formation has been maintained for a long time, and they have been patrolling in the same way since they killed 2 groups of Kumogakure 3 days ago. That day, they ran to the rendezvous point that Yunin had arranged, but found no enemy. They realized that someone in the team they were destroying had passed on information in a special way. That's why they patrolled quickly in this formation. The escort Flying Bamboo Dragonfly feels confident and bold. Stop. Did you find anything? The 4 of them stopped and looked at the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. Gulu. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's stomach made a noise. Sorry, I'm hungry. Hongdo and the other 3 were speechless. Then they found a leeward spot, hunted a game, and started to make a fire to cook. Zitzi. Captain, we have patrolled the border with the Kingdom of Iron twice, and there are still no traces of the enemy. We still need to send people to the Kingdom of Iron to collect intelligence. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly turned over the barbecue in his hand and gave Baiyun breakfast-made suggestions. In the past 2 days, he was not the only one who sensed patrols. Anko's legless creatures were used to detect. Itachi was carried into the sky by him to patrol with a Sharingan, and even Baiyun used his battlefield reconnaissance skills in the morning. It can be described as a blanket search. Apart from killing a few wandering ninjas who wanted to flow into the land of fire, there was no gain at all. It also tired them out. Working day and night makes Fisha Kingshio miss his wife at home and want to eat the ramen made by his wife. Working as a worker is really a beast. Itachi and Anko were both physically and mentally exhausted at this time, especially Itachi. Although he was still young, he had outstanding talent and mature thinking. But at this moment, under the calm appearance, there is fatigue in his eyes. Baiyun morning, I have sent a message to Master Hokage. Next, we will slow down the patrol pace and wait for Master Hokage's instructions. Yes. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly also relaxed. This was what he was waiting for, but he couldn't say it out of his mouth. He was a working man who worked hard for Konoha. How could he say such negative words? Come on, while you are free now, I will teach you some battlefield experience. This is the great experience of a ninja who has participated in 3 wars. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly stood on a tree trunk and said to Itachi and Anko. Baiyun glanced at him in the morning. This classmate just liked to show off in front of his teammates, but he was unexpectedly steady and experienced, and could always put forward many effective suggestions. Then he held the knife, sat on the tree trunk, closed his eyes, and meditated. Do you know that back then I was invincible in 3 battles and never lost a single battle? This made the enemy frightened. Flying bamboos and dragonflies fluttered their saliva, showing off their great achievements on the battlefield. Uchiha Itachi listened with great interest. Let's get to the point. Anyone who is defeated on the battlefield is basically dead, so don't brag, okay? Hongbin had veins popping out. And you have a ghost who is frightened. The only people who are frightened on the battlefield are White Fang Senpai and 4th Hokage. Not even 3rd Hokage and Sannin can do that. She has also experienced battlefields, so she thought Fei Bamboo Dragonfly had some valuable experience, so why bother bragging? She didn't hesitate to expose him. Uchiha Itachi's eyes gleamed when he heard this. Can you tell me the story of White Fang Senpai, 4th generation, and Sannin? Hongdo looked at his cute eyes and coughed, feeling proud. Then she began to talk about the great achievements of these predecessors. Because she followed Orochimaru, although some of her memories were sealed, they were only memories about Orochimaru. All these years have not been in vain. The story is vividly told. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is speechless, the focus is on his great achievements, damn it. But there are some things that Fei Zhu and Dragonfly don't know, but Hongdo knows a lot. For example, regarding the Konoha White Fang and Sannin, the information about these people only appeared in other people's memories, and he had never actually seen them. Anko was different. Following Orochimaru, she knew more than he did. For example, the White Fang of Konoha committed suicide for the sacrifice of his companions. Just like the setting of the previous life, after the Second World War in Sannin, only Orochimaru was active on the battlefield. As Hongdo explained bit by bit, the two of them listened intently. But Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is a bit speechless. Shouldn't he be the one to brag about himself? Why did you become Hongdo and brag about others? You have lived in vain for so many years. And Itachi, after hearing that senior Konoha White Fang gave up the mission for his companions, the 4th Hokage sacrificed himself to save the village, and Sannin faced the demigods and shouldered the spirit of the demigods alone. Many thoughts ran through my mind. These are the great predecessors of the village, the embodiment of the will of fire. Such hard-won peace should not be destroyed by radical elements of the family. Okay, that's it. Hongdo wiped her sweat and said she was tired. But. Cool. It's finally over. Now it's my turn. I'll teach you some fighting skills. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said. After teaching a class once, he found that it was really fun to teach others, let alone 2 famous characters from the original novel. Anko and Itachi strained their ears to listen. One is taught by Orochimaru, and one family has masters. But if Flying Bamboo Dragonfly can defeat a Jonin, you can see that his strength is extraordinary, so it is worth learning. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly did not deal with them, but seriously explained the techniques: battlefield intelligence collection, battlefield first aid, how to support, how to design traps, etc. Real experience. Lastly, it is also one of the key points. As Flying Bamboo Dragonfly finished speaking, Itachi and Hongdo became serious. What they just said had benefited them a lot, and it was actually not the point. Intelligence is the life of a ninja. The two agreed. Analyzing the current situation is your magic weapon to defeat the enemy. The two nodded again. Learning diversified methods is the basis for you to be able to counterattack after analyzing the enemy's current situation. This was very insightful, and the two nodded. In the end, all ninjutsu of ninjas have their shortcomings. Find it, overcome it, and you will win. Chirp. Just when Fei Bamboo Dragonfly finished speaking and the two of them were deep in thought, an eagle's cry came from the sky. Baiyun opened his eyes in the morning and formed a seal with his hands to activate a ninjutsu. The eagle flew down from the sky. It fell on his shoulder, and there was a small bag on the flying eagle's back. Flying Bamboo and Dragonfly also looked at the captain, understanding that it was Master Hokage who had given the order. Captain, look at what Master Hokage has ordered. Anko couldn't wait to show off her skills. Baiyun didn't bother himself in the morning, so he opened the letter and read it. Then his eyes frowned and relaxed again. Episode 53. Discussion. Lord Hokage has sent support to the Kingdom of Iron to collect intelligence. We only need to be responsible for patrolling the border to prevent Kumogakure from invading the Kingdom of Fire. Baiyun said in the morning. Hear the words. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly scratched his head, already having 800 wishes in his heart. It would be really difficult to sneak into the Iron Kingdom to collect intelligence. Espionage is the most dangerous and difficult ninja job. Although the Iron Country is a neutral country, unlike the 5 major countries, ninjas who enter without going through the normal process will be given an invasion judgment. Kill. The profession of ninja killer is not something you just talk about. As the largest military organization in a country, this kind of method usually uses thunder. Although the Iron Country is neutral, it will not let you collect national intelligence casually. It will be difficult to escape if you are discovered. When I read the original work, I felt that except for the 5 major countries, the other countries were extremely weak. But through real experience, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly realized that it was not like that. That kind of weakness is the contrast between big forces, not just you versus a country. As the original book says, Scorpion's puppetry can destroy a country, which is a country with only a few cities, not a country with hundreds of towns like the Iron Country. According to Haiden's memory, if he remembers correctly, Haiden's religion of immortality was born in the country of Tang. However, there was not much progress in Konoha's subsequent investigation of Yuno country. They only knew that there was an evil religion inside. It can be seen that the strength of other countries cannot be easily defeated by one person, and the same is true for the Iron Kingdom. Oh yeah, that means that as long as we keep an eye on the border and wait until the garrison time is over, we can get an S-level mission? Honda was quite excited. This can be regarded as her completing an S-level mission alone. Uchiha Itachi also raised the corners of his mouth. This can be considered his first S-level mission. He looked at the captain and Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. These two were the key to completing the mission. They seem to be sent by the 3rd generation to learn. This is what he is thinking these days. Why did the 3rd generation let him and Anko, 2 weak ninjas, do such a difficult task? In addition to his Sharingan and Anko psychic detection, I'm afraid it was also for training. Nurture like 3rd generation really treats Uchiha like a villager. But the family. Itachi shook his head, hoping it could ease. Otherwise. Yes, but we must always be prepared. If the support sent by 3rd generation encounters problems, we will definitely call for reinforcements. Bayun nodded in the morning. It's not that simple. Before the situation in the Kingdom of Thunder is clear, Konoha still needs to be ready for war. It cannot be said that it will relax with a little information. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly stretched out, nothing is trivial on the battlefield. Everyone should be prepared at any time. You cannot relax until the mission is over. Itachi and Anko nodded. Another half-month has passed. Come on, Uchiha. At the temporary station, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly watched Bayun confront Uchiha Itachi in the morning. A red flag appeared in his hand at some point and he kept waving it. Anko on the side looked speechless. I thought she was already in the 2nd grade. Yes, it was this Flying Bamboo Dragonfly who made nouns. I didn't expect that this guy was even better than her in the 2nd grade. Clang. Bayun's sword in the morning collided with Itachi's short sword quickly, sparks emitted from time to time, and the sword was dangerous. At a young age, Itachi was not bad at swordsmanship. With Sharingan's dynamic vision, he was gradually able to keep up with Bayun's morning attacks. Uchiha-style swordsmanship is also considered to be outstanding in his hands. This is their daily life now. Discuss. Nurture children. For half a month, nothing major happened at the border. Most of the time there were daily patrols. In view of this, in the morning, Feiju Dragonfly and Bayun would leave one person to maintain their physical strength and deal with possible enemies, while the other person accompanied Itachi and Anko to practice fighting. Now it's the battle between Captain and Itachi. Limited to swordsmanship. Train Itachi in practical sword fighting. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly could tell that Itachi's talent was truly that of a chosen one, and his progress in swordsmanship learning had already reached half of his speed. Although he just practiced casually. Of course, when I think about it, I still keep waving the flag in my hand. There are not many opportunities for this kind of leisure time. Hey, stop shouting, I want to watch the battle seriously and learn from it. Hondo couldn't stand it anymore. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly glanced at her suspiciously. Are you still studying? I feel that you have learned Orochimaru's secret technique, and you are already a bit proud. I can't believe you if you say you are studying. Hondo gets angry when he hears the word pride. That's what he said yesterday when she fought with the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. At that time, she was confident that the strength of this man, who was 2 years older than her, was just that he had more combat experience than her. Genjutsu was also quite satisfactory. She was just careless last time. When fighting him yesterday, Anko used the secret snake technique she learned from Orochimaru, confidently preparing to make him suffer. Unexpectedly, He fed her weird-smelling Genjutsu and mocked her for being so proud that she didn't even learn how to solve Genjutsu. Now she feels sick. Certainly. I have to admit that Phasya Dragonfly is a genius. But Itachi, who was fighting, was the genius among geniuses. He has a Sharingan bloodline limit, superb swordsmanship, good physical skills, fire-style grandmaster. Genjutsu is also incredible, but they are not even younger than him. How can there be so many? She thought she had already analyzed his intelligence since the first time she fought alongside Itachi, but she didn't expect that she actually lost in the battle a few days ago. Sometimes she wonders who is Chunin and who is Genin. With Itachi's talent, he doesn't suffer from internal strife at a young age. If he lives to the end of Boruto, he might be able to say, "Sasuke, you're slacking off, you're as weak as 6 paths." Flying Bamboo Dragonfly complained in his heart. What a pity. In addition to the influence of Uchiha's bloodline, Itachi's thoughts have also taken root and sprouted in the collision of ideas over the years, which cannot be changed. Unless one day. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly Ultimate Genjutsu, the insertion of history is completed, the memory is completely modified, and there is still a slight possibility. But Itachi couldn't wait any longer. Nor will it allow people to rewrite their own memories. Clang. Itachi didn't know that the two people behind him were complaining about him. At this moment, he struggled to use Sharingan to understand the movement trajectory of the captain and made a counterattack. He learned a lot from this. Brother Flying Bamboo Dragonfly once said that all ninjutsu has weaknesses, and the same should be true for physical skills and swordsmanship. But he soon discovered during the battle that he clearly understood the captain's motives, but due to physical limitations, he was unable to fight back. This is what Brother Dragonfly said: learn diversified methods, otherwise even if you analyze the enemy's moves and tactical intentions, you won't be able to defeat others? He thought in his mind. Clang. Baiyun put the knife on his neck in the morning and ended today's sparring session. Episode 54. Shape Manipulation. Fire Nation. Border. Be careful. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly took a sip and slashed the tachi in his right hand towards Itachi, while his left hand inadvertently made a Genjutsu seal. Itachi's Sharingan spun quickly. In his eyes, the speed of the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly was very slow at the moment. The trajectory of the sword seemed to be in front of him. He could catch it without even opening the Sharingan. It was completely different from the previous sparring. Isn't it a scam? Suddenly, he caught the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly and one hand disappeared from his eyes, blocked by his body. He thought of the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's proud trick and made a seal with one hand, feeling bad. The hand that originally wanted to block the attack with the ninja sword wanted to quickly move away from the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. Tear it apart. It's too late. He clearly felt that there was still about 10 centimeters between the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly and his ninja sword, but his sleeves were suddenly torn apart. It was as if the sword of a Flying Bamboo Dragonfly had been lengthened invisibly. Ta-ta. Taking a few quick steps back, Uchiha Itachi looked at his tachi and frowned. What happened just now? Is it true that the knife has been extended? What's going on, Itachi? Dragonfly B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** defend, so he put the knife up for defense. How could he make such a mistake? It's not like him. Mitarashi Anko frowned as she watched from behind. Now that we have been together for 2 months, we have a very good understanding of Itachi's strength. Let alone Itachi, a genin who has graduated from a normal ninja school, will not make such a mistake. Facing flying bamboo dragonfly, Itachi would definitely lose, but he couldn't lose like this, right? Baiyun thought for a while in the morning and said, "Did you see the hand he hit? He must have secretly cast Genjutsu and let Itachi get hit." Hongo was stunned when he heard this. He recalled the movements of flying bamboo dragonfly just now, and indeed he didn't see his other hand. Thinking of his one-handed hand seal skills and Genjutsu ability, she felt relieved again. She could accept it anyway if it wasn't Itachi's mistake. What kind of Genjutsu is this? This guy, flying bamboo dragonfly, is too good at hiding, isn't he? In the past 2 months at the border, apart from patrolling, they have learned from each other and maintained their form. Everyone also admires Feiju Dragonfly's Genjutsu. There was even a ban on flying bamboo dragonfly and the use of that disgusting taste system Genjutsu, which is simply outrageous. This is the strongest Genjutsu ninja she has ever seen. It's not hiding, it's just that you can't force him to use his full strength. Baiyun said in the morning. Hongo was speechless. She knows it too. But knowing that the opponent is a Genjutsu ninja and not being able to crack it is simply a shame for the ninja profession. Uchiha Itachi is Uchiha Itachi. After thinking for a short time, he also thought of the hand hidden by flying bamboo dragonfly. There is also the genjutsu used by flying bamboo dragonfly. The opponent's blade is not lengthened, but it is misaligned in his eyes. His genjutsu made me misjudge the shape of the sword. Finally he came to a conclusion. Untie. Thinking of this, he immediately used the method of understanding genjutsu. Then he looked at the smiling flying bamboo dragonfly, waiting for him to recover, and the sword in his hand. Really? Although the knife didn't seem to have changed much, in Sharingan's eyes, the sword was now about 10 centimeters longer than before. What a sinister genjutsu. As both genjutsu-type ninjas, I know how terrifying this hidden genjutsu is to the enemy. With normal genjutsu, the enemy can quickly realize that it is genjutsu. Except for those that cannot be cracked, they can quickly respond to it. But things like flying bamboo dragonfly are terrifying if the enemy doesn't realize genjutsu. Just like just now, if it weren't for the flying bamboo dragonfly to keep its hand, his arm would be gone. Itachi looked at the arm where the sleeve was broken. Oops, did you realize it? How about my new genjutsu, these 2 months of patrolling? I'm not slacking off. Flying bamboo dragonfly didn't see Itachi's shocked expression, so it felt a bit boring. It's not good for people to be too smart, it's no fun at all. He also wanted to see Itachi startled and beg for his feelings. New genjutsu? Itachi asked. In other words, this genjutsu was created within these 2 months, which makes him feel a bit ashamed. Everyone says he is a genius, but the person in front of him is a genius, right? Flying bamboo dragonfly nodded. Genjutsu shape change can change the enemy's perception of the shape of objects. In other words, the moment you are hit, all shapes are defined by me. But the shape of the object itself is still there. In other words, what changes is your perception, rather than actually changing the shape of the object. So, let's just say you have a way to deal with it, right? Come on, let me see if you really are a genius. Looking at the smiling man holding the knife, the three of them, including Itachi, felt terrible when they heard his words. Even if you know the information, it will not be easy to deal with it. You must allocate part of your energy to pay attention to the possible genjutsu of the other party at any time. Even if you know you haven't been hit, you don't dare to be careless. If you don't say it, the enemy will be miserable. If you say it, the enemy will be like an extra person, taking away part of the energy. In short, knowing the information or not knowing the information will have an effect on the enemy. Unless the enemies are robots and have no consciousness. Itachi began to form seals, spat out his big mouth, and launched a giant great fireball towards the flying bamboo dragonfly. Block the view between two people to prevent each other's genjutsu. Then he took out the kunai from his body, pulled out the steel wire from behind and wrapped it around the back of the kunai. Launch in different directions. Phew. As expected of a genius, he came up with a way to prevent genjutsu so quickly, but it blocks my vision, and it also blocks your vision. Flying bamboo dragonfly said he was too naive, and the sword in his hand turned into a palm-sized knife, which he put away. Then make a seal with your hands. Earth style, sneak in the earth. He doesn't use his eyes to see the road, which only renders his visual genjutsu useless. He crossed the great fireball from the ground, emerged in front of Itachi, and made a face at him. Whoosh. But what greeted him was kunai, from all directions. Under the entanglement of the steel wire, it launched an attack on the flying bamboo dragonfly. At the same time, Uchiha Itachi Sharingan rotated, observing his every move. Make adjustments as you go. Young people don't respect martial ethics and attacked me, a 17-year-old man. Flying bamboo dragonfly faced these kunai with a calm expression. Wind escape, Duan Kong. Hu ho ho. The kunai in all directions were immediately blocked by an invisible wall, and were thrown away in all directions with the flying bamboo dragonfly as the center. Puff puff puff. Kunai stuck in the trees, making a dull collision sound. Bang bang bang. Flying bamboo dragonfly applauded, that's it. You've done a good job and you've made some progress recently. Mitarashi Anko walked up and pointed at his face, hey, you are so shameless. If you cover your eyes, Itachi's genjutsu will not be used. Flying bamboo dragonfly spread out his hands and said, cooking, just practice more. That mean look made Hondo want to hit someone, but knowing that she couldn't beat him, she could only clench her fists and grit her teeth. Don't let her get a chance. Itachi didn't know what he was thinking, and silently took back the ninja tools around him bit by bit. Episode 55. Forbidden Technique. Fire Nation. Border. Chirp. A flying eagle circled in the sky and fell from the sky after 2 circles. Information from Lord Third Generation, the Kingdom of Thunder has withdrawn its troops, and the ninja team that is accompanying us is already on the way. Bai Yun looked at the information in his hand in the morning and said. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly stretched, well, it's finally over. 3 months, do you know how he spent 3 months? Patrol, train, train. Anko and Itachi were almost autistic because of her beating. Both of them are geniuses, but when facing him, they are always psychologically broken by his sudden new genjutsu changes. Uchiha Itachi, the eldest son of the family, finally tried the taste of Beijing bean juice, bitter melon, and coriander. In the past, the food he hated most was barbecue, but now that has changed. The same goes for red beans. In addition to chili, she has a few more unpleasant flavors. All in all, Feiju Dragonfly's life is fulfilling. Although she is working, she never forgets about life. When I miss my wife, I send a message back to report that she is safe. Anyway, his finishing touch can give the Phantom Beast a special memory, knowing the way to go, and even knowing how to register at the main gate of Konoha. The ferocious beasts endowed with abilities by the eye-catching hand are called Phantom Beasts, like flying bamboo dragonflies. He felt that having an exclusive title would be a bit more classy. Uchiha Itachi also breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. I never want to fight Brother Dragonfly again. He had finally encountered the feeling of being tortured to death without any chance of winning. You must study hard when you go back and try to break his genjutsu. This is Itachi's next small goal. Many genjutsu of flying bamboo dragonfly told him and learned a lot of information about him. Itachi thought that when he was ready, he would be able to disable his genjutsu. He learned a lot from flying bamboo dragonfly. Especially the genjutsu and combat aspects. There is one thing he will never learn. The bad taste in him seems to like to play pranks on him and Hondo. It felt like the flying bamboo dragonfly had a strange sense of accomplishment when it played pranks on them. It's that kind of sense of accomplishment, when a very famous person is suddenly punched in the face by an ordinary person. This made Itachi feel very baffled. He didn't know why he felt this way, it must be an illusion. Yoshi, damn flying bamboo dragonfly, when I return to the village, I must learn to deal with your ninjutsu. Just wait and see. Mitarashi Anko's eyes were on fire. Flying bamboo dragonfly agreed with her idea, welcome to challenge. Recently I have a new genjutsu idea. I will let you be the first to try it. He really has an idea. After several months of study, he felt that visual kei genjutsu could no longer satisfy him. Genjutsu's shape manipulation has also become very proficient. Next is the hearing type genjutsu, which is the most difficult to guard against among the 5 senses genjutsu. Mainly a visual genjutsu, I was a bit out of it when I met a ninja who, like him, doesn't see through his eyes. Visual kei genjutsu is also the most cracked genjutsu. Although according to his idea, on top of shape control, there is also form control, but that is a vertical improvement, and now it is still a horizontal improvement that greatly improves strength. Hondo paused after hearing this, with a look of horror on his face. Everyone is feeling bad. Damn it, are we the experimental subjects for co-writing? I want to file a complaint with Third Generation. Hondo said angrily. Huh? These are some small genjutsu, real high-end genjutsu. Third Generation asked me not to use it on my companions casually, he wouldn't care about it. Flying Bamboo and Dragonfly said it didn't matter. What he was talking about was the mind-reading technique Q, which was considered a trump card. Because there were so many methods, he even forgot to test it on his enemies. But I glanced at Uchiha Itachi, and I wanted to save something. Who knows if they will match up later. Now that Itachi is still young, he doesn't have many means and lacks the ability to cope. It will be different when you grow up. Nanny? These are just little genjutsu? Hondo's mentality collapsed. The genjutsu that he and Itachi had gone through so much trouble to crack were just small genjutsu here at Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. Uchiha Itachi was also shocked when he heard this. Recalling the family's teachings and the various genjutsu recorded in the family's collection of books, compared with the genjutsu that Flying Bamboo Dragonfly showed before, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's genjutsu is indeed not a forbidden technique. He was very curious about what the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said it couldn't use on its companions. It actually deserves Third Generation's personal explanation. Otherwise, you wouldn't think that I need to use special skills to beat you, right? Not just me, but also the captain. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly smiled. Anko and Itachi looked at the captain. Bayu nodded in the morning. Every Jonin's method is not limited to one method. For example, if you want to be promoted to Jonin, you must learn to remove ninjutsu from the current Grandmaster. You also need to learn the changes and other attributes of ninjutsu to better deal with different ninjas. To prevent an attribute from being restrained, just like the Kumogakure ninja we fought last time. Dragonfly and I are both capable of wind escape, so we make you feel very powerful. If the Kumogakure ninjas meet the ninjas of Awakens village, their advantage will be reversed. Itachi's Genjutsu is the same as Anko's snake-type secret technique. Only after the method is recognized as not being restrained by a single ninjutsu can there be a basis for promotion to Jonin. Ah. It's so difficult. Anko raised her head and shouted. She had learned the changes in the properties of chakra from Orochimaru, and it was not that difficult. And she was still the foundation of Jonin. She felt that she had no hope of becoming Jonin. Itachi kept these in mind. These things were still genins and had not been popularized in the family. But I also know that not being restrained is the foundation of ninja. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly patted her shoulder. Don't be discouraged. You see, I have so many tricks, but I haven't been promoted to official Jonin. It's just a special Jonin, you'll have a harder time, don't worry. Hole. Hearing this, Hondo kicked him over. This means that she is at most a special Jonin. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly retreated and avoided her attack. Okay, stop making trouble, have a good rest, and return to the village after the handover is completed. Baiyun said in the morning. Yes. One day later. In Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's perception, a group of ninjas appeared from the direction of Konoha. The leader, Chakra, is much larger than the average ninja. At least it was bigger than what he and Baiyun had seen earlier. It seems that the village is still not completely reassured, and the ninja who takes over is still a master. Seeing him getting up, the other three people also looked in one direction. After a while, a fat man wearing a red vest came into view. After reaching a certain distance, they can see each other. Baiyun sent a secret signal to the other party in the morning, and after confirming that it was one of his own, he started to approach. It's Dragonfly. From now on, we will take over your garrison. Dingswa saw the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly and said hello to him with a smile. Fei Bamboo Dragonfly didn't recognize any of the team members behind him, so he thought they were a newly formed team. It's been a while since I last saw you. Senior Dingswa has become stronger. Feiju Dragonfly also praised him politely. It's really strong, if not I can even beat 10 tails in the later stage. No wonder he sensed the huge chakra of the incoming person. When Swuding heard the praise, he scratched his head happily, haha, that's right. Baiyun, as the captain, also nodded in the morning. Then he reported the current status of the patrol to Dingswa and others in real time, and then left with Fei Zhu and Dragonfly. Episode 56. Return. Whoosh. Konoha's main entrance. Shinue Izumo and Gang Ziti were registering each trading caravan and ninja. Suddenly, Shinue came out of the clouds and looked at the road outside the gate. Ta. The leader was a young man wearing a forehead protector, a ponytail and a sword on his back, with 3 teammates in ninja vests. Coming step by step. Shinue Izumo touched Gang Ziti. Hey, it's Morning and Dragonfly. These two guys actually went on a mission together. Hearing this, Gang Ziti looked outside the door and saw 2 former classmates slowly approaching. Damn it, Morning and Dragonfly can work together on missions. It's really unfair that we have to guest star as doormen. He was a little frustrated, obviously they also wanted to go on a mission. Hey, old friend, why am I the doorman again? Seriously, why can't it be my turn? As the 4 of them approached, Feiju Dragonfly also saw 2 old classmates who were doing level tasks. Baiyun also smiled and nodded to them in the morning. Kamizuki Izumo completed the registration of the 4 people and sighed, stop talking sarcastically, I also want to be like you and travel to various countries. I don't like running around, except for the work in the analysis class. It's already been my dream to see the gate. The Flying Bamboo Dragonfly scratched its head. Why are you running? I haven't seen anything in so many years. I am tired and can't see my wife. Thinking of his wife, he couldn't wait any longer. Elder brother. Just then, a cute little kid with a hedgehog head appeared, smiling and shouting at Uchiha Itachi. Then he rushed over with small steps, 2 steps, 3 steps, and 4 steps. Whoosh. Just when he stepped on a stone on the side of the road, the child showed fear on his face and was about to fall down. Itachi suddenly appeared in front of him and hugged him. Sasuke, don't be naughty. Uchiha Itachi picked up Sasuke, who was smiling. He heard that today is the day you come back from guarding the border, so he came here early today to wait. Behind Sasuke, Uchiha Makoto looked at the harmonious brothers, covering his mouth and smiling softly. Then he looked at Baiyun Zazeo, please take care of me. Bayun nodded in the morning. No, he is my teammate, not his apprentice, and there is no need to take care of him. And he is very powerful, worthy of being Uchiha's genius ninja. In Itachi's arms, Sasuke's cute eyes showed excitement when he heard someone praising his brother. Brother is the best. He waved his little hand. So cute. Mitarashi Anko looked at the cute Sasuke, smiled, and stepped forward to pinch his face. Snap. Sasuke slapped her hand away, then rested his head on Itachi's shoulder, staring at her unblinkingly. Hondo's face froze, and he forced a smile and said, I am your brother's teammate, and I also take good care of him during the mission. Can you please let me pinch your face? Sasuke said nothing and buried his head deeper. Be good, play with Sister Hondo. Itachi said. Sasuke, no. Red beans. Then give me a hug, please. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly looked at Sasuke, who was still about 3 years old at this time. His cute big eyes were completely different from that of Orochimaru's father. He took out a long strip of bamboo silk or reed from his arms. When Sasuke looked over, he flipped his hands up and down quickly. In Sasuke's curious eyes, a figure slowly appeared. Starting from the feet, ankles, waist, body, and finally the head. A mini-Q version of Little Weasel appeared in his hand. Sasuke's eyes lit up slightly as he looked at the figure that was exactly the same as his brother. It's brother. How about it, it's exactly the same, as long as you play with me. This is yours. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly held up the Little Weasel figure and smiled at Sasuke. As a demo, I still can't control you. Hondo gritted his teeth as he watched. This guy, damn it, lost to him again. No, when she is free, she has to learn the craft. I don't want it. Just when Flying Bamboo Dragonfly sensed his interested gaze and thought Sasuke was about to agree, Sasuke turned his head and rejected his proposal. However, his eyes were still fixed on the Little Weasel figure. Hey, my versatile teammate, you can't do it either. Hondo suddenly felt happy. The unhappiness just now disappeared immediately. It seems that there is no need to learn skills. It would be more delicious to save the money to buy 3-color meatballs. The bystanders laughed. I never thought that Uchiha could have such a cute side. It's completely different from those of the police force. Itachi also smiled. As long as Uchiha can be integrated into Konoha a little bit, it can still be saved. Just look at the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly and you will know that there are ninjas in the village who have no ill intentions towards Uchiha. Damn it, kid, I've given you face, you have to take it if you want it, you have to take it if you don't want it. Can you refuse what I offer? Flying Bamboo Dragonfly took him out of Itachi's arms, grabbed his back, hung him in front of him, and stuffed the little Itachi figure into his hand. Mock up. Do you think you can escape my grasp? I can also brag in the future, lousy is the man who carries 6 past Sasuke. Who else? Flying Bamboo Dragonfly felt a little more satisfied with his inner sense of accomplishment. That arrogant boy, that boy who likes to show off. Now. Like a puppet in his hands. Sure enough, you should hit someone early, and you should also play games early. When he grows up later, hee. Woo-ah. Sasuke looked at the bandaged face close at hand. After a pause, he seemed to come to his senses. He suddenly burst into tears, and tears flowed from his eyes. However, he held the small Weasel Q version figure tightly in his hand. Several people nearby looked at him speechlessly. No. Do you have to entertain other people's children? Uchiha Makoto looked a little embarrassed and shouted in his heart, such a wicked guy won't lead my little weasel into trouble during the mission, right? Uchiha Itachi was even more speechless. Before, he felt that this powerful teammate had a bad taste in him and liked to play pranks on others. Now he has confirmed his idea. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is a bit of a quirky person. The man who inherits the will of fire has this quirk with a touch of life. It should be normal. It should be. Itachi could only think in his heart. Woo-ah. Bad guy. Looking at Sasuke, who was holding tightly to the little weasel figure and crying loudly, he felt the eyes of the people around him. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly had no expression on his face and stuffed him back into Uchiha Itachi's arms. Okay, crybaby, get back into your brother's arms. My figures will be cheaper for you. Looking at the cute Sasuke, my heart is like a dragonfly flying back home. It has been more than 3 months, and there are still 7 months left, and his baby will be born, and it will definitely be cuter than Sasuke. When I think about it later, when Sasuke grows up, he feels like he is forcing himself to show off in front of a strong person. He definitely cannot compare to his children. Elder brother. Returning to Itachi's arms, Sasuke held his brother tightly with his right hand and held the figure in his left hand. The crying in his eyes had disappeared and was replaced by happiness. He happily looked at the little Itachi figure in his hand with a snot in his nose. Episode 57. Rest, Danzo. Konoha Street. Brother, who is that bad uncle? Sasuke lay down behind Itachi, holding the little Itachi figure tightly in his hand, and asked curiously. Behind them, Uchiha Mikoto, who was following them, was also a little curious. A guy with such a quirky personality couldn't lead the little Itachi astray. Itachi smiled and said, "That's the special jonin of the village, Senior Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. He's not a bad uncle." Yes, he bullied me. Sasuke refused, which made him cry. Special jonin? Uchiha Mikoto was also surprised. He didn't expect that 2 jonin would be dispatched on a mission. Seeing Itachi, who was unharmed, he breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that Itachi's teammates are quite reliable. Well, a powerful Genjutsu ninja, I think he can compete with Shisui brother. Since the last teammate was killed and was saved by Shisui, they have become friends. They know that Shisui's Genjutsu is very powerful. In his eyes, Shisui is the strongest Genjutsu ninja in Uchiha. Until the appearance of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly, he knew that besides Sharingan, there were also very strong Genjutsu ninjas. Mikoto was shocked when he heard this. How is this possible? As the clan leader's wife, she heard Fugaku say that Shisui is the strongest genius in Uchiha in 10 years, and Genjutsu is even stronger than his clan leader. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is just a special jonin, but he can actually compare with Shisui in Itachi's heart. Is there really such a genius? Sasuke played with the figure and asked curiously, what is Genjutsu? Flying Bamboo and Dragonfly Home. I used a Genjutsu feint to attack the enemy, using the magnificent cherry blossoms to bury the enemy. In the end, I achieved complete victory and killed the enemy with a trap, but I was unscathed. Did the baby hear it? When you grow up, you will definitely be better than your father. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly sat across from Calamus, dancing with its hands and feet, telling Calamus about its heroic deeds, especially in a gentle and powerful voice, as if it wanted to tell the story to the unborn baby in Calamus's belly. Changpu stroked his belly as he listened, and kept chuckling as he was teased by the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. Did you hear that, baby? Your father is very strong. When the time comes, you must be a strong man like your father. That's right, my baby will definitely be no worse than others. Feiju Dragonfly said proudly. What Hatake Kakashi, what Hatake's Wayun, what Orochimaru, what Tsunade, what Hashirama, what Uchiha Madara. He had already thought that under his guidance, his son or daughter would punch Uchiha Madara and kick first Hokage, at least with the same intensity as Grandpa Bo. This is a confidence that comes from my father. And in order to set an example, he naturally cannot slack off. Since he was not the captain this time, he naturally didn't have to make tedious reports, and he couldn't wait to see Changpu as soon as he came back. Feeling the strong vitality of the child in Calamus, Feiju Dragonfly was very satisfied. That's why I boasted just now about giving prenatal education to my children. After talking to Akaris for a while and letting her understand that she was indeed very strong and that there was little risk in her mission outside, so she didn't need to worry, she began to think about her studies in the future. To set a role model for children, it is natural to have the strength of the past. His current strength is still a bit different from the ninjas who destroyed the world in the later period. Think about your own growth. He must not stop studying the mind-reading series. He will use this series as a decisive move to determine victory or defeat. The eye-dotting hand is currently stuck in a bottleneck. The fantasy beast he creates cannot be transformed into whatever he wants. At least he has tried. Transforming into Kakarote is just a strong ninja. He cannot use the turtle-style Qigong, nor can he Vitality Slash. Ninjutsu cannot be released either, which means that currently the eye-catching hand can only summon different types of strong bodies, and then use the mind-reading series to give it rich combat experience. The method is relatively simple. Genjutsu's ability to deceive the world, he has an idea, which is to combine the sealing techniques and barriers techniques he learned before, but there is only one sign at the moment, so he can leave it alone for now. If I remember correctly, there is a ninja family in the ninja world that sells weather. You can search for it deliberately to speed up the progress. The 5 Sense Manipulation series has already achieved some success in terms of visual genjutsu. At least it can be used against ninjas of Shisui's level. The manipulation of shape changes is also extremely skilled. Next is the study of quality, form, feel, smell, and sound. First of all, Feiju Dragonfly focused on the field of sound. First of all, compared to other fields, sound genjutsu has great advantages. It is less difficult, has a wider impact, and is more difficult to defend. Well, let's study the voice Genjutsu first. It's so far away from the fourth war anyway, and my talent is still so good. I have enough time to develop it one by one. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly finally decided on the line and the sound Genjutsu started. Hokage office. Sarutobi Hiruzen opened the mission report that Bayun reported in the morning. It describes in detail the course of the mission, what happened, whether the border terrain has changed, the frequency of caravans passing by, whether changes, etc., are all recorded in detail. When he saw the abilities that Flying Bamboo Dragonfly had displayed, he raised his eyebrows. Excellent physical skills, excellent ninjutsu, excellent perception, excellent genjutsu, excellent analytical skills, excellent communication with companions. Attached to it is Bayun's morning suggestion that Flying Bamboo Dragonfly can be promoted to Jonin. Although in the establishment, Special Jonin is also Jonin, the name is still different. Special Jonin has strong combat power, but it has flaws and can easily be targeted if intelligence is leaked. The real Jonin cannot be targeted by a single ability. The treatment is the same as the Special Jonin. Belong to the same establishment. This is one of the important indicators of Konoha's ability to distinguish ninjas. It's indeed enough to be promoted to an official Jonin. Hiruzen Sarutobi also thought that Flying Bamboo Dragonfly was enough. No matter in terms of team leadership ability or own strength, they are no worse than Kakashi and Bayun Zazai. It is a bit unreasonable that they are not promoted. However, I still have to tell the two advisors that Jonin's appointment, in addition to Hokage's affirmation of the ninja, also needs to be reported to the top of the Fire Nation. Officially, Jonin, in addition to tasks, have a salary. The salary from the Fire Country is paid every month. If he wanted to get money, Hiruzen Sarutobi had no choice but to report it. He found two old friends, told them about the matter, and asked them to take charge of it. Mido Kaden and Koharu nodded and said it was okay. They were consultants responsible for various people's livelihood affairs in Konoha, and communication with the Fire Country also had to go through them. Hiruzen, this is a talented person, why not leave them to me? I will definitely train him well. While they were talking, a man with his arms crossed and a cross scar on his chin appeared and said to Sarutobi Hiruzen, Duanzo, the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's abilities are enough and there is no need to cultivate the roots. Don't mess around, otherwise there will be no need for the roots to exist. How could Sarutobi Hiruzen allow a ninja with a strong will of fire to get into the roots? Moreover, Feiju and Dragonfly's wife is pregnant, so it is even less possible for her to do such a thing. These are the future of Konoha, not the roots. Hiruzen, you will regret it. Danzo snorted coldly. He also knows that it is unrealistic, but he wants to keep fighting for this right. Episode 58. Phonology Genjutsu. Konoha Tone River. Ding ding, clank. Tintin, dong dong, buzzing. Beside the pattering river, crisp and attractive high notes, soft and long notes, and deep bass flow with the river. Sometimes high, sometimes low. The notes jumped out from the harmonica in Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's right hand and the long breath. From the beginning to every sound. Gradually. Notes are often legato. A cheerful tune slowly emerged from the mouth of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. From the beginning of leakage and sharpness, after just a few trials of scales and notes, Feiju Dragonfly found an accurate and stable pitch. When this cheerful song was flying in the air, the birds on the trees by the river also flew over his head and flew around. Chirp. Chat. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly stretched out his left hand, and several birds landed on his arm. The little bird's eyes were full of intoxication, and it was shaking its head on his arm. Flatterer. He felt the little bird's expression and complained in his heart. He had just read through the various ways of using the harmonica. No matter how talented he was, he could play a tune in a short time, but it would not be enough to intoxicate the birds. Eh? Uncle Dragonfly? Just when he was about to continue practicing, a childish and cute voice sounded behind him. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly sensed several figures around it, put down the harmonica in his hand, and slowly turned back. Naruto had a fishing rod hanging on his shoulder and an old bucket. Hey, Naruto-kun, you still remember me? As he spoke, he took out some rice grains from his bag and fed them to the bird in his hand. As a reward for flattery. Very skilled. At the same time, I didn't expect that Naruto's memory is quite good. I met him when I was 1 year old, and I still remember him when I was 3 and almost 4 years old. Naruto smiled brightly when he heard that Uncle Dragonfly still remembered his name. It seems that I heard the most beautiful words. Uncle still remember me? I'm a ninja, and intelligence comes first. How could I forget you, little guy? Feiju Dragonfly pointed to his forehead protector. Naruto's little stature raised his head and blinked his cute blue eyes. Ninja? Are you the kind of person who flies around high-rise buildings? Gulu gulu. Suddenly Naruto's stomach growled. Stop talking, I'm going fishing. Little Naruto touched his belly and felt that something was wrong. Although he still wanted to chat with his uncle, he rolled up his pants and came to the river. From the tattered bag on his body, he took out some scraps he picked up somewhere and hung them on the fishhook. With a flick of his little hand, the fishhook fell into the river. Feiju and Dragonfly smiled, picked up the harmonica, and continued to practice music. Sound Genjutsu can be released without knowing music theory, but it will be greatly reduced. This is the experience gained by many senior ninjas. Different music can bring different increases to Genjutsu. At the same time, the wave frequency he plays is injected with a small amount of chakra, which spreads in the air with the music. Naruto, who was fishing, including Umbu around him in the dark, felt nothing. But when the sound waves merge into the river, they penetrate into the water bottom and spread. Some fish were sleeping, either stationary or slightly swaying, with only their gill covers opening and closing gently. The moment the sound waves merged into the river, a few fish suddenly had an appetite. Captain, this guy is a ninja, doesn't he have some plot against Nine Tails? In the darkness, a dog-headed Umbu said to the captain with a silver-haired catface mask. Another Umbu also said, "Are you going to stop him?" They looked at the flying bamboo dragonfly chatting with Nine Tails, and the occupational disease was about to start. I was afraid that the other party was coming for Nine Tails. If something happens, it's their fault. Captain Umbu looked at little Naruto, with his small body, picking up a fishing rod to fish, feeling a little distressed. I know that man, he won't do such a thing, don't worry. Hearing this, the other Umbu also restrained their thoughts of driving the people away. But he is always ready to fight. Captain Umbu, on the other hand, looked relieved when he saw Feiju Dragonfly playing and not continuing to interact with Naruto. Although this friend, based on his long-standing impression, has no interest in Nine Tails, he cannot help but be on guard. This is their duty to perform the mission. He didn't want to confront this friend either. Bang! A palm-sized fish was dragged out by little Naruto, who was over 3 years old. He happily pressed the fish on the grass and threw the fish into the bucket as if it were a treasure. Hey, what's going on today? Why are the fish so easy to catch? Looking at the bucket full of fish, my little mind was filled with doubts. At this time, the sound of his uncle's playing came to his ears again, and he felt it was getting better and better. Then he looked at the fish in the bucket, picked up one and looked at his uncle. Uncle Dragonfly, I caught a lot of fish today, I'll give you one as a gift. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly was stunned when he heard this, and smiled. That's your achievement, you can eat it yourself, I want to go home. Then he put away his harmonica, waved his hand, and left. Little Naruto was a little disappointed, but the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly disappeared in front of his eyes. But thinking that his uncle actually remembered his name and called him Naruto-kun, today was a fruitful day, and he regained his sunny smile. I'm lucky today, I'll hang a few more and go back to eat. Naruto looked at the full bucket and then at his clothes. Decided to take advantage of the opportunity to catch a few more. Hey, why can't I catch it? Try somewhere else. Damn it, could it be that uncle's singing attracted the fish? When I see uncle next time, I have to learn from him. Small conch horn, beep, beep, beep. Walking on the way home, Feiju and Dragonfly hummed a familiar song. Meeting Naruto was an accident. He helped Naruto because he was kind. He didn't help too much because he didn't want to affect himself. He is willing to do many things without affecting himself and his family. Such as good deeds. Of course, he also has a sense of proportion in doing good deeds. He does not do great good deeds, but only small good deeds. Small kindnesses win people's hearts, while great kindnesses win people's hearts. Well, with the foundation of visual Genjutsu, it turns out that the difficulty of learning voice Genjutsu has also been reduced. Judging from the operation just now, the sound system Genjutsu is still very simple. But why there is relatively little information about Konoha in this regard? It is probably because their musical skills are too poor. Only a genius like him can speak simply. Like the visual type Genjutsu, the sound type Genjutsu system is the same, that is, it causes the enemy to generate Genjutsu, and the things delivered are the same, but the way of delivery is different. Visual type Genjutsu can prevent the enemy's eyes from wandering, which is equivalent to destroying the enemy's great weapon. Looking at the original work, Asuma and Kakashi don't know what to do when facing Itachi's Genjutsu other than resisting. Even Yuhi Kurenai, the master of Genjutsu, is stretched thin, which shows the advantages of the visual system. As for the sound type Genjutsu, its advantage is its range, making it easy to hit. The disadvantage is that it cannot be guarded against. The enemy may be aware of the problem at the first moment when the sound is played. Then quickly think of ways to crack it. Just like the Jonin he fought against Kumogakure, his sight distance was misaligned, allowing him to be hit unknowingly. Well, it seems like I haven't seen Irika and the others for a long time. They have all become Chunin, so their strength must have improved a lot. Once I get familiar with the voice-type Genjutsu, I'll practice with them in 2 days, hee. From time to time another idea flashed through my mind. Episode 59. Analysis Class Monitor. I spend a few days at home with my family, and from time to time I help my dad make cute little animals for him to sell. Because of her pregnancy, Changpu did not dare to do heavy work except for daily walks. She also helped her father when she saw him doing it. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly doesn't have any idea of letting his dad not do anything and stay at home to enjoy himself. Instead, he is happy that his dad has something to do every day. Thinking of his father in the previous life, he would lie on the bed with his mobile phone when he had nothing to do. He would not go out even if he wanted to drink. He wanted to drag him out for a walk and bask in the sun. He didn't want his current father to become like this. Dragonfly, don't you have any tasks recently? Feiju Dongqing asked curiously. Feiju Dragonfly has been playing with a harmonica every day these days, trying to learn how to play music. Are you that good at it? So he is anxious. Even if there is no mission, he still has to train. I think he was very diligent back then and didn't miss a single day of training. If he was chopped off in the arm in the end, he would not be as famous as his classmate White Fang, and his reputation would spread all over the world. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly, there are no missions. Ninjas also need to rest. The job of stationing at the border is quite tiring. Even tough guys can't do missions non-stop. If you don't train, if you are unfamiliar, you have to be like your father when facing the enemy. Feiju Dongqing shook only a third of his arm. Look, I can't form a seal anymore, so my path as a ninja is useless. Calamus chuckled as he listened, but when he heard that Flying Bamboo Dragonfly might lose his arm if he didn't train, his face showed worry. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is speechless. You really don't give up, you still want to be a ninja, are you that material? I can form seals with one hand, he said calmly. As she spoke, she made a hand seal, slowly making the newly knitted butterfly come to life, and then transformed into a colorful and beautiful butterfly that circled around the calamus, letting her worries dissipate in this atmosphere. Finally it fell on her hair, and its wings were still dancing. Feiju Dongqing instantly felt like something was choking on his throat. And I haven't delayed my training. I spend time practicing Taijutsu Shuriken every day. I'm just practicing Genjutsu these days. You know, Genjutsu. Feiju Dragonfly continued. Okay, I know you are great. Feiju Dongqing looked frustrated, and wanted to teach his son in the name of his father, who knew he was so capable. Husband is great. Calamus agreed beside him with a smile. Suddenly, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly raised his eyebrows. A figure quickly approached his home. I have something to do, let's go out for a while. Whoosh. The teleportation technique made him disappear in an instant, and he reappeared in front of his home. Looking at the familiar cat face mask, I felt a little confused. Is there another urgent mission? The bandage wrapped around the arm instantly wrapped around the head, and the forehead protector was also brought up. He didn't wear a bandage at home, but he was still used to wearing it outside. Hey, is there another mission? Feiju Dongqing muttered as he looked at his disappearing son. I was complaining just now, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. But Calamus had a worried look on his face, praying in his heart that it was not a dangerous task. Daughter-in-law, don't worry about that brat, he is very capable. Feiju Dongqing looked at her worried look and comforted her. That's what he thought. Forming a seal with one hand is something that ordinary ninjas can do. In order to continue to be a ninja, he later practiced for several years and gave up only when he couldn't anymore. He believes in his son's strength more than anyone else. Calamus touched his belly and thought to himself, my husband is very strong. Master Hokage ordered, if there is no emergency, go to the Hokage building now. Cat-faced Umbu landed in front of Feiju Dragonfly and took out a piece of anti-counterfeiting paper. This is to prevent anyone from crossing the Hokage and issuing orders to the village Jonin alone. Feiju Dragonfly heard this, and after confirming that it was true, nodded to him, I understand. It doesn't seem to be an urgent task. But it's not a trivial matter. Call out. Umbu is gone. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly went back to explain, and quickly walked towards the Hokage building. Whoosh. I almost forgot, I had an appointment with Irika today. Well, I hope I won't be late. Feiju Dragonfly suddenly remembered that he had made an appointment with his student to test his ability today. It's definitely not because Genjutsu has developed and I want to experiment. For Irika's growth. At the same time, he was thinking about what third generation wanted to do with him. Could it be that Kumogakure's guys were unwilling to give up and came back? If so, that's an emergency order. Is it because I applied to learn Genjutsu Darkness and third generation agreed? A few days ago, although he had made up his mind to develop the sound-type Genjutsu, he would not abandon other Genjutsu without saying a word. For example, he focused on the Genjutsu created by second generation to specifically deal with Uchiha Sharingan, Darkness line. Coupled with the difficulty of applying, he felt that the higher-ups in Konoha would not allow him to learn such a forbidden technique so easily. By the time they agree, I should have basically completed the sound system Genjutsu. It would be nice if you could get a forbidden technique so easily. Feiju Dragonfly thought this was good, although he didn't think it would be like this. Phew. The scenery of Konoha passed quickly. Soon. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly came to the foot of Hokage Rock, the building that towered under the four heads. Boom. The extremely familiar person came to Hokage's office and knocked on the door. Come in. When Feiju Dragonfly walked into the door, he was stunned when he saw the people in front of him. Hokage-sama, hello two advisors. What caught his eye was Mito Manabu, the second of the three swordsmen, who had transferred to Koharu. Now they are sitting on both sides of third generation. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the dragonfly is coming. Well, do you have any orders from Master Third Hokage? Flying Bamboo Dragonfly asked. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and took out a document and handed it to Feiju Dragonfly. Congratulations, you have become the official Jonin of Konoha. At the same time, Haiichi has also been promoted to the head of the intelligence department. We all agree with your ability and your will to protect Konoha. You will be the leader of the analysis squad. Go to bed. Koharu nodded. Yes, the promotion is official Jonin. With the salary of the fire country, you have to do your job well. Mito Kaden, the important responsibility of protecting Konoha will be left to you. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly took the file, listened to the three people's words, opened the file and saw that it was indeed a file from the Kingdom of Fire, about Jonin's various responsibilities and treatment. In fact, it is similar to the special Jonin, except that it has one more, and can receive a fixed salary of 500,000 taels per month. Thank you, Sir Hokage, and the two advisors. I will definitely do my duty and be responsible for everything within the scope of my responsibilities. Feiju Dragonfly put away the documents happily. I got a promotion and a salary increase. The fixed salary is 500,000 taels, which is not much. It is only worth 500 detonating charms. 500. It was able to blow up Haiden to death many times. You must know that the current turnover of handmaking is only a few 100,000 taels a day. My father-in-law's business is open 4 or 5 days a month. Well, it's really not much. Episode 60. How do you know I am Jonin? Training ground number 98. Damn it, did the teacher let me go? Irika, who was wearing a forehead protector and a ponytail, now had a scar on his nose and kept muttering. He looked at the sky from time to time. Today the teacher said that he would test his progress. Irika was very excited and arrived at the training ground early. Unexpectedly, after waiting for a long time, the appointed time has passed and the teacher has not been seen yet. Since becoming the leader of Chunin a year ago, his progress has been visible to the naked eye. In addition, he was recognized by the third generation and became a teacher in the ninja school, but he struggled to learn a lot. Just waiting to show off in front of the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. Phew. Just as he was waiting anxiously, an eagle cry sounded from a distance. When he looked up, a huge flying eagle had appeared above him. Damn it, I didn't learn this skill, so I'm in trouble. Irika knew the teacher was coming when he saw the eagle, and he also remembered the days when he studied under Feiju Dragonfly. He and 2 other teammates have learned the secret technique, called eye-dotting technique. It's a pity that only Shinobu Mibu has some Genjutsu talent and learned it half-finished. Neither he nor the Thorn-type Iron Wire learned this trick. This is also the reason why he calls Fei Zukingfeng his teacher in his heart. Really treat them as disciples. Whoosh. Flying Bamboo Dragonflies jumped from the sky, and the flying eagle quickly shrank and was put into his bag. Puff. He landed lightly on the ground and looked at Irika with a smile. Haha, I seem to be late. Yes, teacher, I remember you don't like to be late? Irika asked curiously. In his eyes, the teacher is the kind of man who works hard no matter what he does, and he has never seen such a thing as being late. Flying bamboo dragonfly raised his head, used the music knowledge he had just learned, and said in a low and clear voice, "Yeah, how do you know that I just received the official Jonin appointment from Mr. Hokage, and there is also an analysis class the position of monitor?" Several crows flew past Irika's head, and he whispered, "Teacher, I don't know. But I am happy for the teacher in my heart." "Well, do you know now?" "No." Flying bamboo dragonfly nodded with satisfaction, understanding. "By the way, I heard that you were going to school to be a teacher." Irika nodded and said excitedly, "Teacher, you said that my talent is not too strong, but I am more careful and more suitable for being a teacher. Coupled with my actions as the team leader this year, I also realized this. I think being a teacher might be a good choice, and I can also contribute to Konoha. Inherit the third Hokage-sama and your will of fire." Flying bamboo dragonfly really wanted to tell him that the will of fire was nothing. It's just like worshipping gods. If it works, it's God. If it doesn't, it's feudal superstition. But he still choked. Because this thing is of no use to others. On the contrary, it is harmful to yourself. He is a firm executor of the will of fire, how could he have such thoughts? Pooh. He is the will of fire, and he is the will of fire. Very good, I will become a chunin at the age of 14, and I will be able to teach in a ninja school at the age of 15. You are worthy of being my disciple, come on. The future belongs to you. Feiju Dragonfly patted his shoulder and encouraged him. Compared to the original timeline, he became chunin 2 years earlier, which is actually considered a genius among civilians. Teacher, you are only 2.5 years older than me, don't sound like you are very old. Irika was speechless. Stop talking nonsense, I didn't call you here just for small talk. Let me see your progress over the years. If you embarrass me. Hum. You know my methods, teacher. Flying bamboo dragonfly threatened. Gudong. Hearing the teacher's words, Irika's throat rolled, and he remembered the punishment for failing to complete the training tasks under the teacher. Those tastes were the dangers he experienced for a year leading the team, and they were not that terrible. Immediately, he became confident again. He was a man who became a chunin at the age of 14. He was only 2 years behind his teacher and had another year of training as a team leader. What's there to fear? Irika looked at the teacher's fighting spirit. Come on, teacher, I am a man who wants to be a role model for students. I will not be afraid of your genjutsu. His eyes were fiery. Oh? Flying bamboo dragonfly took a serious look at him, looking at his confident eyes. Very good. You are worthy of being my disciple. You just need to have this confidence. Come on, let me see your current strength. Call out. The flying bamboo dragonfly retreats to a certain distance and then forms the seal of opposition. Same goes for Irika. Wind. Hair flowing. Whoosh. Clang. The shurikens collided in the air, creating sparks of enthusiasm. Kunai also collided in the brief confrontation. Irika showed excellent physical skills and fought with the flying bamboo dragonfly. Irika, this ability is not enough. Flying bamboo dragonfly held a kunai in one hand and faced all his attacks. Irika smiled, hey, of course not. Eend tiger meow. Zitzi. Flying bamboo dragonfly let go of its perception, and the shuriken and kunai thrown by Irika just now formed a huge formation and surrounded him. Fire-style fire cutting. Each ninja tool emits a slender line of fire, with the flying bamboo dragonfly as the center, forming an inverted bowl that shrinks rapidly. Wow. In flying bamboo dragonfly's perception, even the underground was surrounded by ninjutsu, and the soil was cut into small grids, quickly shrinking towards him. Looking at Irika again, he had already closed his eyes. Teacher, I won't let your genjutsu stop me, just take it. This is the fire-style ninjutsu I developed using the changes in fire attributes taught by you, teacher. Each fire wire carries a condensed high temperature, and the cutting power is even more powerful than your wind escape, teacher, so be careful. Irika sounded a little proud. At the same time, you are also worried that you will not kill the teacher, right? That's why he spoke out his ninjutsu. Snap. Suddenly a hand patted his shoulder. Who, don't disturb me, are discussing with the teacher. Irika patted his shoulder. Sudden. He suddenly opened his eyes, and what came into view was the smiling mouth of flying bamboo dragonfly. Well done. You can develop ninjutsu. It's amazing. Irika looked at him, then looked at the place where the ninjutsu was performed just now. At this time, the land there was just like burning fairy grass, with pieces on the ground. There was only a small woven limb that was broken into 8 pieces. That was the stand-in for the eye-dotting hand just now? Remembering that he had just fought against the old flying bamboo dragonfly, he had neither used ninjutsu nor genjutsu, but used taijutsu and shuriken to fight him. He thought that the teacher was letting him go. I didn't expect it to be a stand-in. When was it done? The teacher was obviously under his watch all the time, because it was an assessment, and he expected that the teacher would not attack him with genjutsu from the beginning, so he made a series of arrangements. When exactly is it?